The refueling station hung in space like a forgotten relic. It was old, barely maintained, and sat at the edge of Kelmar space where few travelers bothered to stop. Day One guided his transport ship toward the docking port, watching the worn metal structure grow larger in his viewport. "This place looks like it's held together with hope and duct tape," he muttered to himself. His ship's computer beeped a warning. "Recommendation: proceed to next refueling station. This facility has poor safety ratings." "Next station is 6 hours away," Day One said. "We're running low now. This'll have to do." The docking clamps engaged with a metallic groan that didn't inspire confidence. Day One grabbed his jacket and headed to the airlock. He'd been flying supply runs for 3 years now, ever since he joined the Earth Colonial Transport Service. It wasn't glamorous work, but someone had to deliver medical supplies to the outer colonies. The station's interior was dim. Emergency lights provided just enough illumination to see the corridor. Day One walked carefully, his boots echoing on the metal floor. He found the main office and knocked on the doorframe. "Hello? Anyone here?" A figure emerged from the shadows. It took Day One a moment to recognize the species. Velthian, insectoid with multiple arms and compound eyes that reflected the emergency lighting. The alien moved slowly, as if every step required effort. "Welcome, traveler," the Velthian said in heavily accented standard. "I am Rethal. How may I serve you?" "Just need a fuel top-up," Day One said with a friendly smile. "And maybe some water if you've got it." Rethal's mandibles clicked in what might have been acknowledgement. "Of course. Please dock at port 3. I will begin fueling immediately." As Rethal worked, Day One noticed something odd. The station was practically empty. No other ships, no other workers, nothing. For a refueling station, even a remote one, that was unusual. "Business slow?" he asked. Rethal hesitated. "There are complications. Many ships now use the newer stations. They are safer, cleaner, faster, but more expensive, I bet." "Yes, much more expensive." Day One watched the fuel gauge climb. "How long have you run this place?" 43 cycles. Since before humans joined the galactic community." Rethal's voice carried a note of pride. "This station served many travelers once. Now I am grateful for any who stop." Something in the old alien's voice made Day One's chest tighten. He knew loneliness when he heard it. "Well, I'm glad I found you. The fancy stations don't have character like this place." Rethal's eyes seemed to brighten. "You are kind to say so, human." The fueling was nearly complete when the station's alarms blared. Red lights flashed throughout the corridor. Rethal's whole body went rigid. "No," the Velthian whispered. "Not today. Please, not today. What's wrong?" Day One asked, his hand instinctively moving to his hip where a weapon would be if he carried one. He didn't. Transport pilots weren't armed. "They are early," Rethal said. "You must leave now, disconnect and go." "Who's early? What's happening?" Before Rethal could answer, a sleek black ship appeared on the station's external cameras. It was 3 times the size of Day One's transport and bristled with weapons. The design was aggressive, predatory. "Krintor Syndicate," Rethal said, and his voice shook. "They come for payment." "Every month they come." Day One's jaw clenched. He'd heard of the Krintor Syndicate. Everyone had. They were one of the largest criminal organizations in this sector, controlling trade routes through violence and extortion. "Protection money?" he asked. "Yes, if I do not pay, they destroy my station." "If I cannot pay..." Rethal didn't finish the sentence. The black ship docked with brutal efficiency. 3 figures emerged. They were tall, heavily armored, with weapons visible on their hips. Their species didn't matter. The threat was universal. The lead enforcer looked around the station with obvious disgust. "Rethal. Payment time?" Yes, of course." Rethal shuffled to a wall panel and produced a small credit chip. "Here, as agreed." The enforcer took the chip, inserted it into a scanner, and his expression darkened. "This is half. Where's the rest? Business has been slow. I will have the remainder next month. I promise. Double payment. Promises don't spend, bug." The enforcer drew his weapon, a plasma pistol that hummed with power. "The warlord doesn't accept half payments. You know the rules." Day One's ship computer pinged him urgently. "Recommendation: depart immediately. This situation will escalate to violence." He ignored it. "Hey," Day One called out, stepping forward. "How much is he short?" All 3 enforcers turned to look at him. The leader's eyes narrowed. "Human, this doesn't concern you. I'm making it my concern. How much? 3,000 credits. The enforcer's tone was mocking. You going to pay for the bug? 3,000 credits. That was half of Daewon's salary for the month. It was supposed to go toward his sister's medical school tuition. She was back on Earth studying to be a doctor. He thought about her for exactly 2 seconds. Yeah, Daewon said. I'll pay it. He pulled out his personal credit chip and held it up. The enforcer stared at him like he'd grown a second head. You're serious? Dead serious. Take the money and leave. The enforcer exchanged glances with his companions. They seemed genuinely confused. After a long moment, he took Daewon's chip, scanned it, and transferred the credits. You're a funeral human. The syndicate doesn't forget faces. He tossed the chip back. Especially stupid ones who stick their noses where they don't belong. The 3 enforcers left. Their ship undocked and disappeared into the darkness of space. Rithal stood frozen, his multiple arms trembling. Why? Why would you do this? You do not know me. You owe me nothing. Daewon shrugged, trying to ignore the sinking feeling in his stomach about the money. You needed help. I could help. That's reason enough, but 3,000 credits, that is not a small amount. It's just money. It comes and goes. Daewon managed to smile. Besides, my sister would have done the same thing. She's always helping people. Guess it runs in the family. Rethal's mandibles clicked rapidly. In Velthian culture, such a gesture indicated extreme emotion. I am in your debt. A life debt. Do you understand what this means? Not really, but don't worry about it, seriously. Daewon checked his fuel gauge. Looks like we're topped off. What do I owe you for the fuel? Nothing. I cannot accept payment. You have saved my life, my station. Everything I have is yours. How about we compromise? I'll pay half price for the fuel. Deal? Rithal seemed torn between honor and gratitude, but finally nodded. Deal. As Daewon prepared to depart, Rithal touched his arm with one delicate appendage. Human Daewon, please be careful. The Krintor do not forget. They do not forgive. I'll be fine. They got their money. No reason for them to bother me. Daewon's ship detached from the station and turned toward his next destination. He didn't see Rithal standing at the viewport watching him leave. He didn't see the old Velthian's determination to somehow repay this debt, and he certainly didn't know that the Krintor enforcer had already transmitted his ship's identification code to the syndicate headquarters, along with a simple message. Human interfered with collection. Recommend retaliation. Daewon hummed to himself as he set the autopilot, already thinking about his next delivery. It had been a strange stop, but he'd done the right thing. That's what mattered. His computer's voice interrupted his thoughts. Message from Captain Hana. She requests status update. Tell her everything's fine, Daewon said. Fuel acquired, on schedule for the next delivery. He had no idea that everything was about to change. 2 weeks passed quietly. Daewon completed 4 more delivery runs without incident. He'd almost forgotten about the encounter at Rethal's station. Almost. The ambush came near Supply Depot 17, in what should have been safe space. Daewon was reviewing his next cargo manifest when his ship's alarm screamed to life. Multiple vessels approaching at attack speed, his computer announced. Configuration matches Krintor Syndicate Assault Class. Daewon's blood ran cold. He yanked the controls, trying to push his transport to maximum speed. Transport ships weren't built for combat or evasion. They were slow, heavy, and completely unarmed. Send distress signal. All channels. Distress signal broadcasting. No response yet. 3 black ships surrounded him within minutes. They were fast, deadly, and they knew exactly what they were doing. The first shot took out his engines. The second disabled his communications array. The third was a warning shot that passed so close to his cockpit that he could feel the heat through the hull. Surrender, human. You're coming with us. Daewon had no choice. He powered down his remaining systems and waited. The Krintor ships latched onto his transport with tractor beams and dragged him toward a larger vessel that had appeared from behind a nearby moon. The next few hours were a blur of rough handling and cold corridors. They threw him into a cell that was barely large enough to lie down in. No windows, 1 door, and a light that never turned off. A Krintor officer visited him once. Tall, scaled, with eyes that held no sympathy. You shouldn't have interfered, human. The warlord doesn't tolerate disrespect. I just paid a debt, Daewon said, trying to keep his voice steady. That's not disrespect. You made us look weak. That cannot stand. The officer smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Your government will be contacted. They can pay for your release or they can forget about you. Either way, you'll be here a while." The door slammed shut. Day-One sat in the darkness and wondered if anyone would even notice he was missing. Far away in Earth's Colonial Administration building, Captain Hana noticed. Day-One's transport was 3 days overdue. His last known position was near Supply Depot 17. Search teams found his cargo floating in space, abandoned, but no sign of his ship. Then the message arrived. It came through official channels delivered to the Earth Colonial Authority with cold efficiency. "We have your pilot. He interfered in syndicate business. Payment for his release, 5 million credits. You have 30 days. If you attempt military action, he dies. If you do not pay, he dies. If you involve the Galactic Council, he dies. These are the terms." Captain Hana read the message 3 times, her face getting darker with each reading. She forwarded it up the chain of command with a single note. "Request immediate military intervention." The message reached Earth's government within hours. It sparked an emergency session of the Colonial Defense Committee. Admiral Tae Jin, commander of the Third Fleet, sat at the table surrounded by politicians and diplomats. "We should negotiate," one diplomat said. 5 million credits is manageable. Get our pilot back quietly. "If we pay, it sets a precedent," another argued. "Every criminal organization in the galaxy will think they can kidnap humans for ransom." "What does the Galactic Council recommend?" someone asked. Ambassador Ji-won, Earth's representative to the Council, stood up. She was young for an ambassador, but she'd earned her position through sharp intelligence and unwavering dedication to human interests. "The Council recommends we pay or write off the loss. They say one pilot isn't worth destabilizing an entire sector. The Krintor Syndicate controls major trade routes. Multiple species depend on those routes. They're advising us to be practical." "Practical," Admiral Tae Jin repeated, his voice low and dangerous. "They want us to be practical about abandoning one of our own? That's the galactic way, Admiral. Cost-benefit analysis. One life versus sector stability. The math is simple to them." The Admiral stood up, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. "Then they don't understand humans at all. We don't leave our people behind. We don't calculate whether a life is worth saving. We just save them. Admiral, the Krintor have hundreds of ships, thousands of personnel. They have allies, resources, and they know this sector better than we do." The diplomat said. "A military response could start a war. Then we go to war." The Admiral's words fell like stones into water. "Contact the Third Fleet, full mobilization. We're bringing our pilot home." The room erupted in arguments, but the Admiral was already walking out. He had work to do. Ambassador Ji-won caught up with him in the corridor. "Admiral, I support this decision, but you need to know what you're up against. The entire galaxy is going to think we're insane. Let them think what they want." He turned to face her. "Ambassador, your job is to keep the politicians off my back while I get Day-One home." "Can you do that?" She smiled grimly. "I'll do better than that. I'll make sure the galaxy knows why we're doing this." While Earth mobilized, something unexpected happened. Rithal learned about Day-One's capture. The news traveled through the merchant network, spreading like wildfire. The human who had helped him was now a prisoner of the very people he'd protected Rithal from. The old Velthian didn't sleep that night. He couldn't. The life debt burned in his mind. Day-One had saved him, and now Day-One was suffering because of it. Before dawn, Rithal locked down his station and boarded his personal ship. It was a small thing, barely capable of interstellar travel, but it got him to the nearest Earth military base. The human guards at the base didn't know what to make of the elderly alien who insisted on speaking to whoever was in charge of rescuing Day-One. They almost turned him away, but something in his desperate clicking made them hesitate. They brought him to a conference room where Admiral Tae Jin was planning fleet movements. The Admiral looked up, surprised to see a Velthian. "Sir, this alien says he has information about the Krintor Syndicate. Says it's about the pilot they captured." Rithal stepped forward, his body language screaming exhaustion and determination. "Please, I am Rithal. Day-One helped me. This is my fault. I must help him now." The Admiral gestured to a chair. "Sit down. Tell me everything you know." For the next 3 hours, Rithal provided intelligence that Earth's military had never possessed. Station locations, patrol routes, security weaknesses, the structure of Krintor leadership. Everything he'd learned in 43 years of operating a station in their territory. The Admiral listened, his tactical mind already processing the information. When Rethal finished, the Admiral stood and offered his hand. The Velthian stared at it, confused. "It's a handshake," the Admiral explained. "It means respect." "Thank you, Rethal. You've given us a fighting chance." Rethal's mandibles clicked rapidly. "Will you truly go to war for one pilot? The galaxy says this is madness. The galaxy doesn't understand loyalty. We do." The Admiral's expression was iron. "Day One is one of ours. He helped you because that's what humans do. Now we help him. That's also what humans do. I wish to come with you. Please." The Admiral considered this. "It's going to be dangerous. I am old. I have lived enough cycles. If I can help save the human who saved me, that is a good way to end." "You're not ending anything, Rethal. You're starting something. When we bring Day One home, you'll be there to see it." The Admiral called to his aide. "Get our friend here quarters on the flagship. He's coming with us." News of Earth's mobilization spread across the galaxy faster than light. 15 warships, including 2 massive dreadnoughts, began moving toward Krintor territory. The fleet broadcast a message on every channel in every language. "Release Corporal Day One unharmed within 72 hours or we will come get him. This is your only warning." The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Representatives from dozens of species argued, pleaded, and demanded that Earth stand down. Ambassador G1 stood before them all, calm and unshakable. "You call our response disproportionate," she said. "We call it loyalty. We call it being human. That pilot is one of ours. We're bringing him home and nothing in this galaxy will stop us." In his cell, Day One had no idea any of this was happening. He sat in the dark, hoping someone remembered he existed. He had no idea that an entire fleet was coming for him. The bridge of the dreadnought Indomitable hummed with controlled energy. Admiral Tay Jin stood at the center, watching the main display as his fleet moved through space like a pack of hunting wolves. 15 ships in perfect formation, heading straight into Krintor territory. "Sir, we're receiving multiple communications," the communications officer reported. "The Galactic Council is demanding we cease movement. The Avarian Alliance is threatening sanctions. The Confederacy says we're violating 3 different treaties. Acknowledge receipt of their messages. Do not respond to their demands." The Admiral's voice was steady. "Helm, maintain current course and speed." "Yes, sir." Rethal stood near the back of the bridge, watching everything with wide eyes. A young ensign named Bora had been assigned to help him understand human military operations. She stood beside him now, quietly explaining what was happening. "The dots on the screen are our ships," she said. "We're moving in a defensive formation. If anyone attacks, we can respond from multiple angles." "This is for one pilot," Rethal said, still struggling to understand. "One human," Bora smiled. "That's right. Why? The cost must be enormous. The risk is so high. He is just one person among billions of humans." The ensign thought about this for a moment. "Do you have a family, Rethal?" "I had a clutchmate once. She died many cycles ago. I'm sorry." Bora's expression softened. "I have a brother. If someone took him, do you know what I would do?" "What?" "Whatever it took to get him back. I wouldn't care about the cost or the risk. He's my brother. That's all that would matter." She gestured at the fleet display. "Day One is our brother now. Maybe not by blood, but by choice. And humans don't abandon family." Rethal's mandibles clicked softly. "He helped me. A stranger. I still do not understand why. Because you needed help and he could help. That's reason enough for humans like Day One." Bora glanced at the Admiral. "And that's reason enough for all of us to be here now." In the Krintor Syndicate's headquarters, Warlord Kresh watched the human fleet approach on his displays. He was a massive creature, heavily scaled, with scars from dozens of battles marking his body. He'd ruled the Syndicate for 20 years through violence and cunning. "They're bluffing," he announced to his commanders. 15 ships against our entire organization. They're here to posture, to negotiate. No species goes to war over one prisoner. Sir, they've crossed into our territory. They're not slowing down," one commander said nervously. "Then they're idiots." Kresh pulled up tactical displays. "We have 73 combat vessels in this sector alone. We have defensive stations, allies, and we know this territory better than they do. If they want to die for their pilot, let them come." He ordered Day One moved to his personal fortress station, deep in Syndicate space. It was the most heavily defended location he controlled. If the humans wanted their pilot, they'd have to come through hell to get him. "Increase the ransom demand to 10 million credits," Kresh added, and broadcast another message. Tell them if they don't turn back now, the pilot dies. The message reached the human fleet within minutes. Admiral Tae-jin read it without expression, then deleted it. Sir, shouldn't we respond? His first officer asked. They'll get their response soon enough. How long until we reach their outer perimeter? 6 hours, sir. Good, sound general quarters. All hands prepare for combat operations. Throughout the fleet, alarms sounded. Crew members rushed to battle stations. Weapon systems came online. Shield generators powered up. The humans were done talking. On the bridge of the Indomitable, a junior officer approached the admiral nervously. Sir, the Galactic Council just sent an official condemnation. They say if we engage in hostile action, Earth will face economic sanctions and political isolation. The admiral didn't even look up from his tactical display. Noted. Continue on course. Ambassador Ji-won's voice came through on a secure channel. Admiral, I'm in the council chambers now. They're losing their minds. They honestly believe you'll turn back. Will we face sanctions, Ambassador? Probably. Multiple species are already preparing the paperwork. Can you handle the political fallout? I'll handle it. You handle bringing our pilot home, the Admiral smiled grimly. Understood. Tae-jin out. Rethal approached the Admiral carefully. May I ask a question? Of course. Are you afraid? The Krintor are powerful. Many will die today. The Admiral turned to face the old Velthian. Yes, I'm afraid. Any commander who isn't afraid before battle is a fool. But fear doesn't change what needs to be done. Daewon is one of my pilots. He's my responsibility. I don't leave my people behind, no matter what it costs. The galaxy will call you mad. Let them. I'd rather be called mad than be someone who abandons his people when they need him most. As the fleet approached Krintor space, something unexpected happened. Ships from other species began to appear, not to fight but to watch. Word of humanity's response had spread across the galaxy, and everyone wanted to see if the humans would really do it. News networks from a dozen species broadcast live coverage. Commentators debated whether this was courage or insanity. Most agreed it was probably insanity. On one station, 2 alien journalists discussed the situation. They're going to die, one said. The Krintor will destroy them. Maybe, the other replied. But think about this. When was the last time anyone in this galaxy went to war for a single captured soldier? When was the last time any species risked everything for one life? Never. Because it's economically foolish and strategically pointless. Or maybe because we've forgotten what loyalty really means. The human fleet reached the Krintor outer perimeter. 3 defensive stations hung in space, bristling with weapons. Behind them, the Krintor had assembled 27 combat vessels. The humans were outnumbered nearly 2 to 1. Sir, they're hailing us, the communications officer said. Put them through. A Krintor commander appeared on screen. Human fleet, this is your final warning. Turn back or be destroyed. Your pilot will be executed if you advance. Admiral Tae-jin stepped forward so the Krintor could see him clearly. We are here to retrieve our pilot. Stand down and release him and we will withdraw. Refuse and we will take him by force. There will be no further warnings. You're outnumbered. You'll die here. Then we'll die doing the right thing. Can you say the same? The Admiral gestured to his weapons officer. Cut transmission. All ships weapons free. Engage at will. The fleet accelerated. The Krintor defensive stations opened fire first. Plasma bolts and missiles streaked across space. The human ships' shields flared as they absorbed the impacts. Then the humans fired back, and the Krintor learned something terrifying about human weapons. They'd been designed by a species that had spent thousands of years perfecting the art of war. The humans had brought that expertise to space. One defensive station disappeared in a ball of fire. Then another. The human dreadnoughts lived up to their name, their main guns tearing through Krintor shields like paper. But the Krintor weren't helpless. They fought back with desperate ferocity. The human cruiser Defiance took heavy damage to its port side. The destroyer Relentless lost its forward shields. On the Indomitable's bridge, Admiral Tae-jin watched the battle unfold. Task Force 2, break left and flank their formation. Task Force 3, press the center. Indomitable will provide fire support. Rethal watched in horror as ships exploded and died. So much death for one pilot. Bora stood beside him, her face set in determination. We don't measure worth by numbers. Every human life matters. Daewon matters. That's why we fight. The communication channels between human ships were open. Crew members encouraged each other. shared tactical information, and kept repeating one phrase: bring him home. It wasn't just a mission objective. It was a promise. A commitment. Every human in the fleet knew Day-Wan's name. They'd all seen his file, his picture, his record. He wasn't just a mission parameter. He was their brother, and they were coming for him. The Krintor formation began to break. They'd expected a cautious approach, perhaps some attempts at negotiation even during combat. They hadn't expected the humans to fight with such coordinated fury. Every time they destroyed or damaged a human ship, the others didn't fall back. They pressed harder. The Krintor commander sent an emergency message to Warlord Kresh. Sir, the humans are breaking through. They're not stopping. They're not even slowing down. They're actually going to do it. On his fortress station, Kresh stared at the battle reports in disbelief. Fall back to secondary positions. Draw them deeper into our territory. We'll crush them with superior numbers. But as the Krintor forces retreated, they carried with them a new fear. They'd heard about human determination. Now they were seeing it firsthand. These weren't soldiers fighting for money or territory. They were family coming to rescue one of their own. And that made them more dangerous than any mercenary army. The fortress station loomed ahead like a small moon. It was massive, covered in weapons platforms and shield generators. Dozens of Krintor ships orbited it in defensive patterns. This was Warlord Kresh's stronghold, and he'd filled it with everything he had. Admiral Taejin studied the tactical display. His fleet had taken damage pushing through the outer defenses. 3 ships were operating at reduced capacity. 2 more had sustained casualties. But they'd made it. They were here. Status report, he ordered. All ships report ready for engagement. Casualties are manageable. The medical teams are handling wounded personnel, his first officer said. Good. Bring up the fortress schematics. Rethal stepped forward. I can help with this. I delivered supplies to that station many times. I know its layout. The Admiral gestured him closer. Show me everything you know. The old Velthian pointed to various sections on the display. These are the main docking bays. These corridors lead to the detention levels. Here, this is where they keep valuable prisoners. If Day-Wan is anywhere, he will be here. Security? Heavy. Automated turrets, guard posts, reinforced doors. It is designed to be impenetrable from the inside, but not from the outside. The Admiral smiled coldly. Lieutenant Nari, are your teams ready? On the screen, a woman in black armor nodded. Lieutenant Nari commanded the Earth Special Forces unit assigned to the fleet. Her team of 20 operators had been preparing for this mission since they entered Krintor space. Ready, sir. Give us an opening, and we'll get him out. You'll have your opening. The Admiral turned to his weapons officer. Captain Hyan, you have tactical command of the fleet engagement. Keep them busy. Make them look at you, not at the infiltration team. Captain Hyan, commander of the Indomitable's weapons systems, grinned. Sir, they're going to be very busy. I promise. Warlord Kresh watched the human fleet approach his fortress. He'd gathered every available ship. 73 vessels now defended his position. He outnumbered the humans 5-1. They couldn't possibly win. As soon as they're in range, all ships fire, he ordered. Overwhelm their shields, destroy them. But his second-in-command was nervous. Sir, they've fought through every defense we put in their path. Maybe we should negotiate. Negotiate? Kresh's voice was deadly quiet. They're here for one pilot, one. If we give in, we look weak. The entire syndicate's reputation is at stake. We don't negotiate with inferiors. He activated a communication to the detention level. Prepare to execute the human prisoner in 30 minutes. I want it broadcast to their fleet, let them watch him die. In his cell, Day-Wan heard the guards approaching. He'd lost track of time in the darkness. But he knew it couldn't be good when multiple guards showed up. They dragged him out roughly, hauling him down corridors toward what looked like a broadcast chamber. Fear knotted in his stomach, but he refused to show it. Whatever was coming, he'd face it with his head up. Any last words, human? One guard mocked. Want to beg for your life? Day-Wan managed a weak smile. Yeah, you guys should really redecorate. This place is depressing. The guard hit him, but Day-Wan kept smiling. If he was going to die, he'd do it his way. The human fleet engaged the Krintor forces with devastating precision. This time, there was no holding back, no measured response. The dreadnoughts unleashed their full firepower. Space lit up with weapons fire. Captain Hyon coordinated the attack from the Indomitable's weapons station. Task Force 1, focus fire on those cruisers. Task Force 2, suppress those defensive platforms. Show them what Earth can do. The human ships moved like they were dancing. Every captain knew their role. When one ship drew fire, others covered them. When shields weakened, others moved to intercept. They fought as a single organism, each part supporting the whole. The Krintor had numbers, but the humans had something more important. They had purpose. Every shot fired, every maneuver executed, every order given was for one reason: bring Day One home. While the main battle raged, Lieutenant Nari's team approached the fortress in a stealth transport. They'd modified the ship to appear as debris, just another piece of wreckage from the fighting. The Krintor sensors ignored them. 2 minutes to insertion point, the pilot whispered. Nari checked her team. 20 operators, all volunteers, all ready to die if necessary. Remember, we're not here to fight the whole station. We find Day One, we extract, we leave, fast and clean. What if they've already killed him? One operator asked. They haven't. The Admiral would know. He'd feel it. Nari didn't know if that was true, but her team needed confidence. He's alive and we're bringing him home. The transport attached to an auxiliary airlock with barely a whisper of sound. The team moved into the station like ghosts. Rethal's intelligence had been perfect. Every corridor, every junction, exactly where he said they'd be. They encountered the first guards 3 levels in. The fight was short and silent. Nari's team didn't use guns unless necessary. Blades and bare hands were quieter. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Admiral Tae-jin monitored both battles simultaneously. The fleet engagement was brutal but going in their favor. The infiltration team was ahead of schedule. "Sir, the Krintor are broadcasting something," the communications officer said. They're threatening to execute the pilot on live broadcast." Every human on the bridge froze. The Admiral's face became stone. "When?" 15 minutes, sir. Get me Lieutenant Nari, now." Nari's voice came through, slightly breathless. "Sir? They're going to execute him in 15 minutes. You need to move faster." "Understood. We're 3 levels away, we'll get there." The team abandoned stealth. They ran through corridors, taking out guards without stopping. Alarms began to blare. The station security knew something was wrong. In the broadcast chamber, Daewon was forced to his knees. A camera activated, pointing at him. Warlord Kresh's voice echoed through speakers. "Human fleet, you have 5 minutes to withdraw. If you do not, this pilot dies. This is your final chance." Admiral Tae-jin heard the broadcast. His hands clenched into fists. 5 minutes. All ships. Maximum combat intensity. I want every gun firing. I want them overwhelmed. Blind them, deafen them, make them look at us, and nothing else. The human fleet's attack became a storm of fire. Every weapon opened up simultaneously. The Krintor forces were driven back by the sheer violence of it. In the fortress, Lieutenant Nari's team burst through the last door. The broadcast chamber was ahead. They could see Daewon through the window, surrounded by guards. "Breaching charges ready," one operator said. "Do it." The door exploded inward. Nari's team flooded the chamber. The fight was chaos. Gunfire, shouts, the clang of metal on metal. The guards never stood a chance against Earth's best operators. Nari reached Daewon and cut his bonds. "Corporal Daewon, I'm Lieutenant Nari. The Third Fleet is outside. We're here to take you home." Daewon stared at her, unable to process what he was hearing. The Third Fleet? For me? For you." She pulled him to his feet. "Can you walk?" "I can run if I have to." "Good, because we're about to." She activated her comm. "Package secured, exfiltrating now." Admiral Tae-jin heard those words and allowed himself the smallest smile. "All ships, cover the extraction team, whatever it takes." The team fought their way back through the station. Daewon ran with them, his legs shaky but determined. Behind them, alarms screamed and guards pursued. Ahead, the stealth transport waited. They made it to the airlock with Krintor forces right behind them. The last operator through the door sealed it and armed the charges. The explosion would buy them precious seconds. "Go, go, go!" Nari shouted at the pilot. The transport shot away from the station like a bullet. Krintor ships tried to intercept, but human fighters swarmed them, driving them back. On the bridge of the Indomitable, the communications officer looked up with tears in his eyes. "Sir, the extraction team reports mission successful. They have him. Daewon is alive." The bridge erupted in cheers. Admiral Tae-jin allowed himself a moment to feel relief, then his voice cut through the celebration. "All ships, begin withdrawal. We got what we came for, form up for return to Earth space." But Warlord Kresh wasn't done. Enraged by the rescue, he ordered all ships to pursue. "Destroy them. I don't care what it costs. Kill them all." The Krintor forces threw themselves at the retreating human fleet with suicidal desperation. They'd been humiliated. Their reputation was in ruins. All they had left was revenge. Captain Hyun coordinated the fighting retreat. "Keep formation. Cover each other. We're all going home together." The battle raged for another hour. Human ships took damage. The destroyer, Relentless, lost main power. The cruiser Defiance had hull breaches, but they held together, protecting each other, refusing to leave anyone behind. Finally, they crossed back into safe space. The Krintor forces broke off pursuit. They'd lost too many ships. Warlord Kresh's fortress was damaged. His organization was in chaos. The humans had won. In the medical bay of the Indomitable, doctors examined Daewon. He was bruised, exhausted, but alive. Admiral Tae-jin visited him personally. "Sir?" Daewon tried to sit up. "I don't understand. Why did you come? All this for one pilot?" The Admiral sat down beside the bed. "Because you're not just one pilot. You're one of ours, and we don't leave our people behind. Ever." The Third Fleet returned to Earth space 3 weeks after the rescue. The journey back had been slow, with damaged ships needing constant attention. But every ship made it home. Every crew member who survived the battle came back. Daewon stood on the observation deck of the Indomitable, watching Earth grow larger in the viewport. He still couldn't fully process what had happened. An entire fleet had come for him. People had died to save him. Why? Rethal found him there, moving slowly on his multiple legs. The old Velthian had barely left Daewon's side since the rescue. "You are troubled," Rethal observed. "I keep thinking about the people who died, the ships that were damaged. All because I helped you pay off some criminals." Daewon's voice was heavy. "Was I worth it?" "That is the wrong question, young human. What's the right question, then?" "The right question is, what kind of species are humans that they would do this?" Rethal moved closer. "I have lived 87 cycles. I have dealt with dozens of species. None of them would have done what your people did. None of them. Maybe they're smarter than us. Maybe they understand that one life isn't worth all this. Or maybe they have forgotten what it means to truly care about each other." Rethal's mandibles clicked softly. "You helped me when you had no reason to. Your people came for you because that is who they are. Do not diminish their sacrifice by questioning your worth. Instead, honor it by being worthy of it." Daewon thought about that for a long moment. Finally, he nodded. The Galactic Council chambers were in chaos. Ambassador Ji-won stood at the center of it, calm and composed, while representatives from dozens of species shouted at her. Earth must face consequences for this aggression. "You violated our neutrality treaties." The Krintor Syndicate, while criminal, had rights under galactic law. Ji-won waited for the noise to die down. When it finally did, she spoke clearly so everyone could hear. "Let me make sure I understand. You're upset because we rescued our pilot from criminals who kidnapped him?" "You went to war," a counselor said. "Over one individual. The cost was enormous. The disruption to trade routes was massive. All for one life." "Yes, one life." Ji-won looked around the chamber. "How many of your species would do the same? How many would risk even one ship to save a single citizen?" "Silence, that's what I thought." She pulled up a holographic display. Let me tell you what really happened. A human helped an alien merchant being extorted. He asked for nothing in return. When criminals punished him for that kindness, we responded. We showed the galaxy something it seems to have forgotten, that individuals matter, that loyalty means something, that you don't abandon people who do good. It's economically irrational, someone argued. Maybe, but we're not spreadsheets. We're humans. We make decisions based on what's right, not just what's profitable. She looked directly at the speaker. And if that makes us irrational by your standards, then I'm proud to be irrational. Another counselor stood. What you call loyalty, we call chaos. If everyone acted like humans, the galaxy would be at constant war. Or maybe, Ji-won said quietly, if everyone acted like humans, there would be fewer wars, because people would know that kindness is protected, that helping others won't be punished, that cruelty and exploitation have consequences. She let that sink in for a moment. Earth won't apologize for saving one of our own. We won't apologize for showing loyalty. We won't apologize for being human. If you want to impose sanctions, go ahead. We'll survive. But think carefully about what you're really sanctioning. You're punishing the one species that values individual lives above profit margins. The debate continued for hours, but no consensus was reached. Some species wanted sanctions. Others quietly admired what humanity had done. A few began privately reaching out to Earth, interested in forming closer alliances. In the aftermath, something unexpected happened. The story of Day One and the Third Fleet spread across the galaxy like wildfire. It was told in markets and schools, in bars and government chambers. Different species interpreted it differently, but everyone heard it. On a colony world far from Earth, a young alien student raised her hand in class. Teacher, why did the humans risk so much for one pilot? The teacher, an elderly member of a species that had long ago calculated that individuals were expendable, paused. It was a question he'd asked himself many times since hearing the story. Because they believe something we have forgotten, he finally said. They believe that every life has value. Not just economic value or strategic value, but intrinsic value. The pilot mattered simply because he existed and he was one of them. Is that wrong? The teacher looked at his students, really looked at them, and felt something shift in his thinking. No, I don't think it is. I think perhaps we're the ones who have been wrong. Across the galaxy, similar conversations were happening. The human response had cracked something in the galactic consciousness. Species that had operated on cold logic for centuries began questioning whether they'd lost something important along the way. The Krintor Syndicate never recovered from the incident. Warlord Kresh's reputation was destroyed. His allies abandoned him. Within a year, the Syndicate had fractured into a dozen smaller organizations, none with the power to threaten major trade routes. More importantly, criminals across the galaxy learned a new rule. Don't touch humans. They're crazy enough to start wars over single individuals. Day One eventually returned to active duty, though not as a transport pilot. Admiral Tae-jin personally recruited him into the diplomatic corps. His story made him famous, and he used that fame to build bridges between humans and other species. Rethal never returned to his refueling station. Earth offered him citizenship, which he accepted. He spent his remaining years as a consultant, helping humans understand alien cultures and commerce. He became close friends with Daewon's family and was there when Daewon's sister graduated medical school. When Rethal died, 15 years after the incident, his funeral was attended by thousands of humans. Admiral Tae-jin, long retired, gave the eulogy. Rethal taught us something important, the old admiral said. He taught us that kindness creates bonds that transcend species and culture. He and Daewon showed us that a simple act of helping someone can change the galaxy. At the ceremony, a young human asked Daewon, now a senior ambassador himself, the same question everyone always asked. Was it worth it? All those resources, all that risk for one person? Daewon smiled. The same question he'd struggled with for years. But now he had an answer. Yes, because it sent a message to every human in the galaxy. You are not alone. No matter where you are, no matter what happens, we will come for you. That's worth any price. But what if other species don't understand that? What if they think we're weak or foolish? Let them think what they want. We're not doing this for them. We're doing this because it's right, because every human deserves to know they matter, that they're valued, that they're never forgotten. The young human nodded thoughtfully. I heard that other species are starting to change their policies. that they're treating individuals as more important now. Some are, others aren't. But at least now they know there's a different way, a better way. Daewon looked at Rethal's memorial. One old Velthian and one human pilot changed how the galaxy thinks about individual worth. Not bad for a simple fuel stop. Years after the incident, it was taught in Earth schools as a defining moment in human history. The day humanity showed the galaxy what loyalty really meant. The day one pilot became the reason for a war. But it was also taught on other worlds and other schools to other species. Young aliens learned about Daewon helping Rethal, about Earth's response, about what happened when kindness was met with cruelty. And they learned the most important lesson of all. You helped a human? Then prepare, because if you're threatened, Earth will march to war for you too. The galaxy had learned something about humanity. They weren't the strongest species. They weren't the smartest. They weren't the oldest or most advanced. But they had something no other species possessed in quite the same way. They had each other. And they would fight for each other with a ferocity that terrified anyone who stood against them. In the end, that's what the story of Daewon and the Third Fleet became. Not a tale of war, but a tale of what it means to be human, to care so deeply that you would risk everything, to value a life so highly that economics and politics become irrelevant. The galaxy had asked if one life was worth such a cost. Humanity had answered with actions, not words. They had shown that every life was worth that cost. Every single one. And in showing that, they had changed the galaxy forever. On a transport ship somewhere in deep space, a human pilot helped an alien merchant with a mechanical problem. The merchant was surprised. "You would help me?" "We just met," the pilot smiled. "That's what we do. Haven't you heard the story?" The merchant had heard it. Everyone had. He looked at this young human with new understanding. These humans, these strange, emotional, fiercely loyal humans, had taught the galaxy something it desperately needed to learn. That kindness matters. That individuals matter. That loyalty matters. That sometimes the most important thing you can do is help someone who needs it, even if it costs you everything, because that's what makes you human, and in a cold, calculating galaxy, that made all the difference.